Good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Spence.
Good morning.
And Steve is here.
Hello, everybody.
And Mike is with us.
Indeed, I am.
Indeed. Our number, 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is made possible by Telestream Wirecast software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Nick is on the road and on the way to family vacation, so I don't know. He may call in, but he's not going to video in.
Nick is on the road again.
He's on the road again. Uh-oh, he's saying that there's
drive safely, Nick.
There's no audio. Nick is in the Skype chat saying that there's no audio.
Okay. Can you hear us in the chat?
I can see the meter moving. That's interesting. It looks fine to me there. Nick, is it working now?
How's it going to hear you if you can't hear me?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, dear.
Oh, hush. Oh, well, he's typing. Oh, he thinks it was before the show. Okay, that's okay.
John
That's
RTP can hear
We're
us.
fine.
Thanks, John.
So, what's going on? Parliament is under attack, huh, Steve?
I've been busy with the computer all night and morning, so I don't know. Don't watch the news.
It's interesting. It's the story goes that the UK Parliament has been hit by a sustained and determined cyber attack by hackers attempting to gain access to MPs. What's his MPs? I don't know.
Members of Parliament.
Oh, and their staffers' email accounts. Both houses of Parliament were targeted on Friday in an attack that sought to gain access to accounts protected by weak passwords. It's always boils down to that.
Weak passwords are a no-no.
The estate's digital service team said they had made changes to accounts to block out the hackers and that the changes would mean staff were unable to access their emails. So to make a long story short, they did not have email for the rest of the day.
Oh, diddums.
Some of them said they went to a pub.
That's pretty standard for an MP.
But that's interesting. You know, I mean, targeting
the government
in a way, but in a way that you can tell that it's happening. Normally they do it so you don't know.
Well,
so that's
look forward to seeing all the details on WikiLeaks, and then it will show everybody the corruption that's going on.
Yeah. You know, I mean, over here, if they mounted such an attack on accounts, they'll hit it on Gmail or whatever, where they know that people don't use strong passwords. I don't think I've ever heard about their actual government emails that were broken into. I may be wrong, but I don't remember anything like that.
Well, most occasions where things have got lost is because somebody's lost or left a laptop in the back of a taxi or on the train.
Yeah.
Or a thumb drive. You know, they're really good at doing that.
Especially when they have no business of even taking that stuff with them. I never understood that.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you even have it on your laptop? Why is that stuff on your laptop? It does not belong there.
Because they can. Well, they're taking work home with them because they get paid so much money that they feel obligated to take work home with them.
Well. And this is going to make things real interesting if it works out. OneWeb has been granted approval from the FCC to launch a network of internet beaming satellites into orbit. The FCC chairman said, "Humans have long sought inspiration from the stars, from the ancient Egyptians orienting the pyramids towards certain stars to the Greeks using constellations to write their mythology."
Has he been smoking something?
Be technical, never mind all that. He said, in modern times, we've done the same with over 1,000 active satellites currently in orbit. And the FCC harnesses the inspiration as we seek to make the promise of high-speed internet access a reality for more Americans. So this is just above the U.S. It's not for the world. But without getting into all the nitty-gritty of the political side of this, I always thought that it takes a lot of power to communicate with a satellite, and especially at higher speed. Mike?
What?
Spence? What are they gonna? How is this? I'm wondering if this is just going to be like a relay that the satellites will communicate with a station on Earth that will then either wirelessly transmit or.
Well, who knows? I mean, the infrastructure behind it is quite complex, I'm sure. In that I didn't hear you say whether these were full orbit or low orbit satellites. The original intent, Microsoft was going to put up a bunch of low orbit satellites that wouldn't have the inherent latency.
It's low Earth orbit.
Okay, in which case they're only in focus of your antenna for a short period of time, which means that they have to hand off the traffic to each other as they pass by, which is quite sophisticated, I'm sure. And then there has to be interaction with the Earth. So I have no idea what it looks like technically.
Yeah, it's just interesting that they're finally doing it. I mean, Microsoft didn't do it. This is the first time I hear the name OneWeb.
Well, who is OneWeb? I mean, that's
the company that's doing it. I understand,
but who is that?
That's what I'm saying. It's the first time I hear that name. I never heard of it.
Very serious investment to do all that. You're talking sending multiple satellites into orbit and maintaining them in orbit. So
it's a bunch. Yeah, it's a big endeavor. But it's interesting to see if it'll happen. Like you said, Mike, Microsoft wanted to do it. Other companies wanted to do it.
Google probably. If Google's an investor in OneWeb, then that would make sense. I can't imagine Google and Microsoft allowing someone to come in and do this and not own it and have control over it.
Well, Google were talking about putting up balloons, weren't they? For
they've got enough hot air to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
The hot air balloons, yeah, that'll work. I had an interesting situation for the last few days with a Dell computer that will get to the point, it'll boot up, it'll get almost to the login screen, but will sit there with a black screen with the mouse. It's not locked up. The mouse moves. The numlock, caps lock, all are doing their thing. But it will not get into the login. It'll do the same thing in safe mode. there was just no way to get around it. The customer didn't know which version of Windows, so I didn't want to screw it up farther, but I played with it, did spin right, and did Hiren, just went in to look and see what's, it just, nothing will show me anything about the operating system. So I finally last night decided, okay, never mind. I put another drive in it, installed his OS, kept the other drive as secondary drive, and even though he's got backups, I said, okay, here, this is it. But I've never seen such a thing. There was absolutely no way. I mean, go to an earlier, the last, what is it? The last known working, nothing. No option will allow you to get past that black screen. Now, reading about it and trying to find out information, some people said it's a virus. And to put it on another machine and scan it. I did that, didn't find a thing. Don't know. I mean, it's really, really, really strange. Any of you had that kind of thing where it won't get to the login screen?
Well, I think everybody who's dealt with Windows at one point or another has had it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the solution was. Last known good configuration is what you were talking about.
Yeah, I went and I was trying to do a restore to earlier, and it says there are no restore points. So I don't know if, I mean, I know that Windows starts with that enabled, but you can disable it if you want to. I don't know why you would want to do that.
Well, you do at your own peril. I mean, that's the way it goes.
But
so you're not even able to boot into safe mode?
No. It does the same thing. It gets all the way to that point where it's going to show you the login screen and stops. I mean, no hard drive.
Windows is corrupt.
Well,
reset the PC back to factory default.
It will not let you do that either.
You can wipe out the hard drive and
start from scratch. Yes, I know. Yeah. I was trying to do all kind of different updates, upgrades and restoring without losing your files. It got the closest I got was okay, we checked and we're going to back up your documents and financial data and blah, 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 blah. That's the Dell backup and restore, something like that. Not Microsoft, but it wanted an external drive to copy it onto and so forth. And I said, all right, before I do this, I'm going to put another drive and see. So,
but you were still able to read the bare drive though.
Read the bare drive. What do you mean read it? You mean look at it and all?
Yeah, get the data off of it from another computer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no problem doing that.
Did you do by any chance a hard disk scan to see if you had any bad sectors on the hard drive?
I did check disk first and then I did a spin right.
Right, spin right would be what I would do.
And not a bit of problem.
So you got a corrupt installation of Windows. That's not really a surprise.
It has to be.
Now, the only other thing that, as long as you've checked everything else and you're getting ready to give up on it, the only other thing I would do is unplug everything from the motherboard except the hard drive.
There's nothing on the motherboard. Nothing, absolutely. It's a bare motherboard. No cards.
You don't have any floppy drives or DVD drives or anything plugged into it?
There's only a CD, and I did unplug the CD and left the hard drive in there. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But there's no add-ons, nothing.
0.1% of the time that will cause the problem.
Well,
Sounds like you've done everything possible.
And
I
guess you
tried.
did a virus scan with an external computer.
Yeah, I put it on another machine as a second drive
Yep.
and ran nothing. I don't know. I just thought that it was very, very interesting for something like this to happen.
Yeah.
So what else?
Well, you've heard all about my problems. I'm not going to talk about them again. I got a new PC, everybody, but I'm having difficulties. It's Windows 8.1. Bleh! I know, horrible, but at least I want to try and get it going. But it just doesn't seem to want to do the updates. So even people that have technical experience have problems too.
Yeah. Why did you get 8.1? Is that because of what was left in inventory and you got a good buy on it?
It's what was installed on the machine.
Where did you buy it?
Amazon.
Really interesting.
I mean, but that was the original operating system.
Yeah. It did say on the advert. It's a Zoo Storm. I don't know if you have those ever in the US, but they're quite a popular brand here.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, it's a British brand, I think. Yeah, it said it came with Windows 8, but it's actually 8.1.
Well, 8.1 works. It's just a matter. I mean, it's not Windows 10.
It's visually different, isn't it? Really, but
well, it's more like Windows 7.
Yeah, it's one step closer to Windows 10, isn't it? I'll probably keep it and see if I can get the thing updated to current times.
Amnon, have you used that WSUS with 8.1?
I never, ever installed Windows 8.
Have you ever worked with it, had to recover it, had to update it, had to do anything?
No. It's weird. I've never got a... Well, no, I can't say. I mean, the very early days I did, but no, I never did. It does have... WSUS has the options there. Windows 7, Windows 8,
Okay.
Windows 10. So you can choose.
When I first told you about it, I didn't look that closely. I was working on a Windows 7 machine because Microsoft has intentionally or otherwise handicapped Windows 7 updates from scratch. It's very difficult to build a Windows 7 machine from scratch and do Windows updates.
Very.
Same way they handicapped XP. I don't think it's a coincidence, but that's just my opinion. And this utility actually goes out and uses FTP to grab the updates and apply them instead of depending on the Windows Update client to do it. And Gene says he would use Classic Shell on 8.1, as did this 8.1 machine that I worked on last week or so. In fact, it was interesting that I had two different issues pop up. One was a Windows 10 machine. One was a Windows 8.1 machine. The 8.1 machine was my brother, who said that it was a laptop. He hadn't used it very much, but he bought a new router. This was a good one for you, Spence. He bought a new router, and everything he wanted to connect to the router was connecting except this one laptop. It had connected fine before. And what I had him do was to connect Ethernet cable so that I could log into it. And I logged in. Sure enough, everything was fine. It was connecting, but it would say limited connectivity, which meant it was connected to the router, but it would not pass the internet.
Right.
I did a little research. So what would you have done, Amnon?
At this point, it happened to me many times, and I solved it one sure way. Give it a static IP.
Okay, that didn't work.
Okay, so don't know. I don't know what I would do. Tell us.
You go in and it has a Broadcom Wi-Fi wireless radio in it.
Right.
There, if you do update or rollback, I forget which one, the driver, it gives you two options. One driver written by Microsoft, one driver written by Broadcom.
Mm-hmm.
We switched to the one written by Broadcom and it started working.
I mean, damn. So the Windows
Default
did not work. Yeah.
No. Not with this router. And of course, it was a Netgear piece of crap that he bought. So that's not a surprise.
That's interesting. So, wow. You could see the network, but you couldn't get through the gateway.
Right.
My son just had AT&T fiber installed, and their router, for some reason, will not talk to the Apple router that he has. There's some issue with connectivity. He tried to set up like a second network on top of the existing network or use it as a pass-through, and in neither case could he get it to work.
What did he do?
He didn't fix it yet.
Oh.
So she was trying to figure out what's going on. But it's got to do with the AT&T router. He's using the AT&T router and Wi-Fi now, but wanted to use his own airport.
Okay. Does he have the PACE system, PACE router?
I don't know what it is. We were just talking about this the other day.
Because it has no bridge mode.
No, not the. He was going to let the router be a router, but let his airport be an access point. So basically, turn bridging on in the airport, not in the.
So he was going to have the airport. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because he was getting extra distance the way he was set up, that the airport was serving the outside in his yard,
right?
And where the the AT&T router's installed, it doesn't reach well back there. So he just wanted to. I said, "Well, put it in line, give it its own other IP address, and let it just route between the two." And can't seem to get that to work
with double NAT.
Yep. And actually, Steve Gibson recommends triple NAT.
I don't recommend any double NAT if you can avoid it.
Well, his whole thing about security by obscurity, and that as a performance thing, yes, I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, you can lock your computer down so that even you can't get into it.
Yep.
So, I've had too many problems with double NAT. We in this radio station we're working on, somehow we were under the gun to get things done within about a 24-hour period. We installed the internet at the studio down in Wilmington. We were I don't remember what it was we were hooking up. I was not down there. I was remote. The guy who was down there doing the work knew what he was doing, but it didn't occur to him that he had plugged our router into their router. And I said, well, is their router in the bridge mode? And all of a sudden his light bulb goes off and he says, you know what? I don't think so. I didn't put it in the bridge mode. He said the Time Warner guy at that time should have put it in the bridge mode. And I said, are you drinking? And so anyway, we logged in, and Steve, you got a question in chat. And so we logged in and did a trace route, and sure enough, there were the local IP on our router was, the WAN IP on our router was a local IP on the Time Warner router. So the guy who installed it was back in Raleigh at the time, and this was 10 o'clock at night. We're saying, okay, do we bridge it? What do we do? So then how do we find the yada? So anyway, we logged into the Time Warner router, guessed the password of all things, and threw it into the bridge mode and rebooted it, and it came up.
Yeah. We'll do it every time.
No, it doesn't do it every time.
Well, I mean, if you try to hook two routers, one behind the other, you have a screw up.
Well, what could happen, what we were concerned about is that once we got the Time Warner router into the bridge mode,
mm-hmm.
then if it went into the bridge mode, would our router be able to pull a public IP without manually rebooting our router? And I don't recall, we may have had to have our local guy go over there and reboot it. I don't recall, but it was nail biting.
Well, It's just that when you're doing things like this and you don't know exactly how the current network is there and the layout, you it's a good thing that you thought about this. It's normally you don't think about it. Okay, here I'm plugging it here. That's where it belongs. Well, I think the only way to have router into a router is to have a different network. Then you can do it.
Well, I ran into another problem this week as well. A friend of mine he's an engineer. He has some very old software that's very expensive that does exactly what he wants. So he chooses not to upgrade his machine. He has dual boot on his machine. He has XP on it as well as Windows 10. And he's not going to change it. He's not apologizing to anyone, because when he has to run that simulation software, then he runs it in XP. It does exactly what he wants it to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was he booted into XP and his sound card, everything works fine. He boots into Windows 10. His sound is very, very, very low. He can't hear it with everything turned wide open. So what would you think the problem was?
I would call Mike.
Oh, come on, Amnon.
I would. Well, driver is A.
Yeah,
and second,
one thing,
just the settings.
No, it was the driver.
That's what I'm saying. Driver, and then the settings. Yeah.
So
okay.
So I had him go in and roll back the driver on Windows 10, and the problem went away.
So in his case, he went from the manufacturer driver to the Windows driver?
Not necessarily. He went from the current driver to the prior one. I didn't bother to ask him who wrote the driver.
No. Yeah. Well, as long as it works.
Yeah. Well, it's a little disappointing that Microsoft is having driver problems. That was one of the things that they started in Windows 7 that they really did a good job of in Windows 10, in that when you're installing Windows 10, you don't spend 2 hours at the manufacturer's website trying to figure out which driver goes where.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Windows 10 may not install the optimum driver, at least the network card will work to allow you to get to the website to get the correct driver.
It's funny, from experience I've had the last couple of weeks working with older machines, I find that Windows 7 did a little bit better job of finding the drivers. Not now, but back in the day when you were upgrading or moving hard drives to different machines. And I found that Windows 10 now, it's okay, but if it's an older driver, it doesn't find it. The library just isn't broad enough.
I mean, look at this. We have driverless cars. Why can't we have driverless windows?
Wouldn't it be nice? And it's funny how you can take the same piece of hardware and two different people can write drivers for it, and it can perform completely differently, the same hardware, because of the driver. I knew people that wrote drivers for Ethernet adapters back in the day. And it's like, how complicated is it? Doesn't the manufacturer give you some driver information for the chipset? Oh no, you have to tailor it to your specific environment. It's like, it just sounds like it didn't seem realistic to me. But
yeah,
they would go. There was one guy specifically where I used to work that was like the whiz kid with drivers. People would go to him and say, "Oh, I got slow performance on this NIC in some piece of network hardware that might done on the network side," and he would come up with a custom driver and it would double or triple the performance. Well, how is that possible?
Trying to be extra careful.
Well, true, or lazy.
Or yeah.
So, and then there's the driver issue where there used to be in the early days, and just talking about this weekend, about the early days of Ethernet switching, the very first products. I mean, being introduced, when was it? Early 90s. The very first mainstream Ethernet switch was called Calpana. And they were a startup company out in Santa Clara. And they were so good that companies like I worked for, Synoptics, were buying Calpana switches and putting them in their products. and before they started to design their own. But the early days, Synoptics had a new switch. I remember being part of the press team that was introducing it at Interop out in Las Vegas, and it was called the 2800. Amazing! It was, the price point was good. It was I think it was 16 ports of it was 100 meg uplink, but it was 10 meg data ports, and they had a fiber version too. So great introduce it. 2 months on the market, they find out that the chipset had to be respun because it had a issue with what they called a killer packet. If a malformed packet were to hit this switch coming in from an adapter that was having issues, the switch would roll over and die. And there was nothing they could do in software to make it reliable. They had to go back and spin the hardware. So it was a year. But they had to put this thing on hold for a year. And they bought other people's switches to put in places where they had ordered or installed it, just to keep them running until they could come up with a new version of hardware. That's how long it took back then. Now it's like you spin hardware in a couple of days. It's expensive, but you can do it.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me about that
Yes.
bad packet, and we had that happen in the early days at the internet center. That suddenly things will go bad, and you never know what's going on. Well, yeah, that's what it is.
They called it alignment issues to do with the size of the packet, and if you had if the certain bits were flipped around, and if the switch didn't know what to do with it, didn't recognize it, say, "Well, I don't recognize this." So instead of just saying discard or move on, it would just get obsessed with trying to figure out what to do with it, and it would die. So it just wasn't. But it was not a program issue. It was a hardware that the chipset itself could not deal with.
And again, it's programming.
Yeah, but it was programming that you couldn't reflash it. They weren't now one of the major developments in networking was to come up with programmable networking chips. So you could go ahead and say, I have this generic NIC that's, say it's a 48 port switch. Well, I can apply changes to that chipset on the fly and make the nature of the switch change. But back then, if it was written in silicone, you couldn't change it. Not and mass produce it at a cost that you could sell it. They did have flashable chips, but they were really laboratory things that weren't meant for consumption. Yeah, it was the good old days. It was the Wild West days of networking, I'll tell you.
All right, and talking about programs and problems, a massive trove of Microsoft's internal Windows operating system builds and chunks of its core source code have leaked online. It says some 32 terabytes of installation images and software blueprints that compress down to 8 terabytes were uploaded to betaarchive.com. The latest load of files provided just earlier this week. It is believed the data has been exfiltrated from Microsoft in-house systems since around March. The leaked code is Microsoft shared source kit. According to people who have seen its contents, it includes the source to the base Windows 10 hardware drivers, plus Redmond's PNP code, its USB and Wi-Fi stacks, its storage drivers, and ARM-specific one-core kernel code. So anyone who has this information can scour it for security vulnerabilities, which could be exploited to hack Windows system worldwide. All these little bits and pieces is what makes it makes the scammers and the bad people able to do what they're doing when it comes to ransomware and viruses and malware and spyware and all that kind of stuff. it's just amazing how something like this can just leaks out. And it's not like sitting there and, oh shoot, I didn't mean to upload this. Stop it. I want to do this is 32 terabytes, 8 terabytes. This has to take a long time to get out. So it's do you think it's gross negligence? I think somebody did it on purpose. I don't know why, but somebody did it on purpose. Or somebody broke in to their network and got it out.
Or maybe it's an unhappy employee who was treated like crap.
That's true. And on the same line of talking, they said that Obama learned of Russia's attempts to hack U.S. election systems in early August 2016. And as intelligence mounted over the following months, the White House deployed secrecy protocols it hadn't used since the 2011 raid on Osama bin Laden's compound. According to a report by the Washington Post, apparently one of the covert programs that Obama, the CIA, NSA, and other intelligence groups eventually put together was a new kind of cyber operation that places remotely triggered implants in critical Russian networks, ready for the U.S. to deploy in the event of a preemptive attack. Now, again, I will not get into the rest of the stuff, but guess who actually used it? I mean, obviously it didn't work for us, but that could have been what triggered that WannaCry or some other ones in before it, and who knows what in the future. It's you using. You have the tools and you don't know how to use them. Or you don't know when to implement it. And those bad guys say, okay, oh, I see this. Let's take it. Let's break it apart. Okay, that's how they do it. Now we're going to use it. And it's gross negligence. It's thinking, oh, I've got the tools. We can do it. It didn't work. It did not work. Not that we know of, anyway. So all these tools that the NSA had on their computers and tools to do this and that, those tools are now in the hands of bad people. People who are trying to hurt you and me. And they know how to use it. They learn how to use them. So, yeah, Obama, confronted Putin and said, why are you doing this? Well, come on.
Yeah. Well, there's a video out there where Obama says that anyone who thinks that the Russians have hacked elections while he was president is stupid. Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but I believe it.
Oh, it's out there somewhere. I haven't bumped into it last week somewhere. Somebody had posted it. I don't remember where, but it's, let's see here.
While it looked like Hillary was going to win, they didn't want it to get out and make a big deal out of it.
It's just we have good people that in certain places that know how to do things, and they come up with all these tools that give other people the ability to protect us, and we are not using it the way that they were intended to be used, because some people think, oh, I know better than that person. I'm going to do it my way. And you screw up. And you screw up, and you screw up, and you screw up, and then you create a real tidal wave of screw-ups. No. It's just a shame that things like this happen in this day and age, that you are trying to keep government from shutting down, businesses from shutting down, and people are not learning from their past experience.
Well, the Russians did. They were paying Bill Clinton $500,000 for
Yeah.
little short speeches, and when Hillary lost, they stopped paying him.
Yeah,
They learned from their mistakes.
Didn't they say the Saudis say, "Hey, we need the refund of the money we gave you"?
Yeah, right.
I mean, here, I mean, look, the British Parliament being brought down as far as email.
Yeah, but that's probably a good thing. The more you handicap politics, the better the country does.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah.
Pray for gridlock.
As a matter of interest, possibly, I've tried that WSUS because I've got the other machine running connected to the same monitor, so I can't see what's going on with the show at the moment. But I'm still connected through the other computer and watching the download and what it's actually doing. Looks quite impressive. Lots of stuff whizzing by on a Windows.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, it looks like it's doing its job. 37% at the moment.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
If it goes bang, you'll hear the
noise. You are only on the first step, that it's preparing. Then when it's done, you have to run another program that's in client. If you go into the client folder, and there is updater.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it works great.
Looks impressive anyway.
Looks impressive. It is impressive. I give all the credit to Mike for making me aware of this.
Somebody told me about it. I just passed along.
Yeah, I understand, but
that's all we do here is pass along what we learn. We don't know anything.
Yep.
If it does the trick and saves me having to go through more, goodness knows how many hours, then it's got to be a wonderful thing.
Uh-oh. Bernie Sanders and wife under FBI investigation for bank fraud.
No.
Nah, just kidding.
That wouldn't happen.
I don't trust this is Zero Hedge website.
Oh, they're not too bad.
Yeah, well.
It's breaking stories, so take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it in other places, not just Zero Hedge.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's going to come down on her is the college that she ran for a while. The financial irregularities there, where she took it and ran it into the ground.
Yeah, but they're not. That stuff gets covered up. I mean, even though Michelle Obama's former career got covered up. She was paid $375,000 a year by a hospital, and you know what her job was to do?
What?
To find legal ways to get people out of the hospital who couldn't afford to pay.
No.
Just telling you.
Rumor and innuendo.
There you go. I just made it up.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Fake news.
Yeah.
Alternative facts.
So you guys want to make money?
No, money's not good.
I mean, here's an opportunity. Mozilla and the National Science Foundation want a new internet. And they want it to be free and accessible for everybody. And they'll pay you $2 million for it.
Really?
On Wednesday, the two organizations issued a call to action for big ideas that decentralize the web as part of the wireless innovation for a networked society. The challenges include getting the internet to communities off the grid, with proposals like a backpack with a computer and Wi-Fi router inside. This I don't follow, but to a decentralized internet, is actually doable. I mean, Ron and Jason and I, we talked about it in the past, and it's doable. It's not a afternoon script, but it is doable. But they'll pay you $2 million. All they don't want you to do it. They want ideas how to do it. So here's your chance. Guys, you've been listening here for years. You should know how to do it. We just want our cut. 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Call us. Let's talk. Let's see what's on your mind. Let's see what Nick is saying.
While you're doing that, I do have a question. Is anyone using the Windows 10 menu the way it comes out of the box?
I am on one machine.
I am on the other machine, yeah.
How do you find anything?
You just start typing. Just what if you're trying to find like add remove programs, just start typing add remove and it finds it.
But that requires a keyboard when in the past it didn't.
Yeah, that is
How's
true.
that in advance?
But then before you'd have to sort of click and then go to control panel, then click on add remove programs. For if it's designed, which I think it is for users that perhaps aren't that au fait with it, then if they want to remove a program, they type, well, how do I remove a program? So if they type remove, then chances are it'll come up and they don't need to know it's in control panel add remove programs.
I use it on my business machine. I don't have Classic Shell on it since I
don't
upgraded.
get it. I thought Windows 7 menu system was fine. It was easy, convenient, and also the typing works on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. It looks to me like what they did was Windows 10 is they wanted to make it touchscreen responsive.
Oh, that was the intention. Was all
and in doing so, they screwed up what 98% of the people use it for.
Yeah, but that's
done down
Microsoft,
though, isn't it? It's lots of things seem to be hidden away in places that you're not used to finding them in Windows 7. But it's dumbed down to the point where you think, well, I want to change resolution. How do I do that? Well, you just type resolution, and invariably it will come up there.
And I do like that. I agree with that. That's a good function. But why move these icons? I mean, I hate to install Classic Shell on things because then when you go to work on another computer, you can't find anything. It deviates from the standard.
Yep.
But in this case, it just doesn't make sense to me to use Windows 10 with its native icons on a non-touch screen.
No, well, this is what I said right from the outset when Windows 8 came out, that they've jumped the gun in trying to make it touchscreen because touchscreens weren't common, and there was very few touchscreen enabled computers, let alone laptops and tablets out there then. So they jumped the gun way too early. There's loads of stuff out there that's touchscreen compatible now, but even though I've got the Surface Pro 3, I don't use the scrolling from the side and all those touchscreen menus. I mean, I invariably use the keyboard.
I find out that the longer we go, they actually making it that you have to have more clicks, more typing, unless you can use voice, and then more talking.
Yeah,
that's
the way it's going to go, isn't it? Talking, you'll be talking to it.
Yeah, but I mean, talking to it.
We're getting there.
We're getting there, but the problem is that, I mean, even here, like, look, now we have Alexa at home, right? So how many times did you see Alexa coming up, suddenly goes, I don't have an answer for that. Well, nobody said anything, but something from the TV or keys clanging. I mean, if you're talking to the computer and you're doing some important work and somebody comes in and yell, "Hey!" and it does something on the screen, or it changes or deletes something. I don't know. It's not as secure and as you hitting the delete key, for instance. It's not as secure as you hitting the enter key to send an email. Imagine you writing an email and say, "Yeah, I don't know that I want to send this. I need to change. No, this is too much." And something happens in the room that makes it send it.
Which is like the old days of you get a pop-up on screen, and if you're typing in a Word document or whatever else, the pop-up takes forefront, and if you hit the space bar, you've activated OK.
Yeah.
I've said for years that is the stupidest thing, because if you get a pop-up from a virus, you've just clicked OK by hitting a space bar.
Right. They know how to trap you.
Yeah. If it's a pop-up, it should never take precedence over the front of the other screen.
Speaking of stupid, do we have any Apple defenders left? Have they all disappeared?
No, Apple went out of business.
Okay. iPhone.
Despite your best hopes, Mike, they're still.
Uh-oh. What? Mike?
iPhone. Some genius in the iOS development department decided that during a telephone call, it's a good idea to hide the hang-up button.
Intentionally hide it or just left it out by mistake?
They intentionally hide it. The screen sort of goes to a screen save mode.
Oh, boy.
And let's say I'm talking to Spencer. It would say at the top, normally you're sitting there, it's in the middle. You know what it looks like. It's got this little red hang-up button down at the bottom. You press it and you hang up the phone call. While you're talking now, after a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, then all of a sudden that screen goes away and it replaces it with a black screen with just your name up at the top. And if I want to hang up on that phone call, I have to tap your name to bring back the hang up button.
How much do they get paid per minute?
I mean, somebody
calls.
help me. I mean, I'm having a real problem with even some Mac moron defending that one.
Well, I don't think to be honest, I don't think it's specifically an Apple thing. It's a market thing. It's a stupid move on their part from a support perspective.
I really do want somebody to defend it. I mean, there's got to be a reason that I don't see.
Maybe it's that red button is using a little bit more battery power that they're trying to save.
Right.
No, you have to be able to see the complete face of the person.
No.
Oh, that's right. Black. That's phone. Never mind. That's phone. Yeah.
Yeah, the screen is black. It's just.
Yeah. Well, has this been? Where did you find out about this?
Oh, about 6 months ago. What was on one of the iOS updates?
No, but I mean, how did you find out about the issue itself?
I'm making a phone call and I'm talking to you, and I say, "All right."
Oh, you saw it. You saw it. Okay.
And I want to hang up, and there's no hang up button.
No, it's a Control-Alt-Delete. That's how you hang up
on the iPhone.
Yeah.
You can't get to the screen without touching. You can't get to the keyboard without touching something on the screen.
It's to preserve the original design intent for the look and feel of the program. They didn't want to muck it up with having.
I really do want somebody. I'm open-minded. Really, I'm open-minded. Somebody tell me why this makes sense.
There was something called human factors testing, which
this failed.
Oh, it fails. Yes, I'm just saying is that there was we used to get opportunities to go in and help people in the lab working on interfaces, and you would literally go to the lab for a day, and they would show you, well, this is what we designed. We want you to go through and try all these different steps and exercises and give us your opinion of how the interface works. And it would always be, even though it was stuff that was released as release candidate stuff, there'd always be something you'd find that was screwed up. It didn't work right. So how come? Yeah. So either this got past them, or maybe they have a screen decluttering protocol, and they had to get rid of it for that, but they didn't well, how would that apply to a live phone call? And they don't
To-
take that into account.
To Apple's credit, quite often when they do something really stupid like this, there is the defense from the Mac fanboys is, okay, all you have to do is go into settings and tell it, do not use the save screen whenever you're making a phone call. Okay. Then my criticism is, why did they change the default without telling me? So having said that, I'm waiting for the defense. I hope there's a way to turn it off because I understand Windows 10 pushed us towards things we didn't want to do because they knew better than we did what was right. I'm not sold yet. But I still don't understand the logic in hiding the hang up button during a telephone call.
Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
I've noticed since I got the iPhone 7, there have been a few things that were either hard to find or couldn't find anymore. They were just a little bit different. Even though it's the same iOS I had on my old phone, there were just things different about the iPhone 7 because of hardware enhancements.
No. All right, Spence, you want to do specials?
Sure. Let me a second to open it up here.
All right, let me put it up, and then I'll put in the...
I'm back on this screen now, and just to answer Joey, I'm far too ugly. You'd be running out the room screaming. That's why I don't come on camera. I get my ears start to bleed because of all the screaming and shouting that people do.
So Amnon, you have $3,398 waiting to be spent
for something that you recommend. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's your very own 10 meg hard drive.
Yeah.
It's the hard disk you've been waiting for from a company called
10 megabytes.
10 megabytes, yeah. $33.98. More storage, more speed, more value, more support. That's how their claim to fame. And if you're looking for a new way to get online and hang out with other people, you can always use PeopleLink, American PeopleLink. That became very popular, didn't it?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think it was a local thing in Illinois. I never heard of it either, but I stumbled across the ad. And for all your printing needs, they now have a personal portable daisy wheel printer for only $5.99. I wish they'd give dates on these ads. It'd be hysterical to know. Looks like probably early 80s, somewhere around then. So, all right.
Interesting.
Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Computers 2K Now specials for June 25th, 2017. Starting with laptops at Best Buy, we've got a 15.6-inch Core i5 laptop, $100 off at $399. We've got it at Office Depot, HP 17-inch Intel Core i3. I mean, if the i3 is good enough for you, but you like a big screen, 17.3, this is $150 off for $379. And at Staples, they've got an HP 15-inch Core i7, $150 off for $499. Desktops and all-in-ones at Best Buy, they've got a Dell 19.5-inch touchscreen all-in-one with a quad-core Pentium for $389. That's $60 off. Office Depot has a Lenovo Idea Center desktop i5 for $499.91, which is $100.08 off. And I know the 91 means something in the way they put the prices. They have they actually have a rule of thumb as far as how prices appear. Whether it's not a sale, so it might be a closeout if it's 91. And Staples has HP Slimline Intel Core i3, $100 off for $349.99. Tablets, Samsung Galaxy Tab A for $119 at Best Buy, $30 off. New Vision 7.85-inch tablet, Android tablet for $119 at Office Depot, Office Max. And you do a search on tablets on the Staples page, and you come up with Finish Powerball dishwasher tablets. So for $18.79 for a 54 pack. I just thought that was interesting because there were no tablets in the weekly ads. So I just went to their main search screen for product and said tablets, and this is what came up. So they're not touchscreen tablets though. Networking. Best Buy has the Aris Surfboard dual band wireless AC router with DOCSIS 3.0 cable modem for $199. It's 30 off. If you want to get all-in-one devices, I don't particularly care for that, but some people do like it. TP-Link Archer C50 router for $49.99. That's 10 off at Office Depot. Staples has Netgear AC1200 Wi-Fi router for $79. That's 10 off. Storage. This is a pretty big USB hard drive. 8 terabyte Western Digital USB 3.0 at Best Buy for $209.99.
That's for a neighborhood backup.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Your whole street is covered.
Yep.
You can all chip in together. If you're into cloud storage, I have this Western Digital cloud storage, but I have a 2 terabyte version of it. Prices keep coming down. 4 terabytes for $179. It's got a decent interface from Western Digital for backups in the background. I did have some issues with an earlier version of it, just using too many, tying up too many processes to do backup in the background, but it's gotten better, cleaner. So $179 at Office Depot.
Do you have to have clouds around, or can
you
it
do.
sit?
You do. It doesn't work on a clear day.
Okay.
It works very well in UK because we've always got clouds.
Always cloudy. That's right. But and it also comes with remote access software. So if there's something you want to get to on your cloud backup, you can use remote access software and access it from anywhere. Staples has a 420 gig SSD drive for $99. This is not the best price online. You can find it at some obscure web page that I don't know what the ratings are like. But mainstream pricing, this is probably the best you'll get on this particular PNY 240 gig SSD at Staples.
Steve, did you say something?
Yeah, Spence said 420 gig, and I just corrected him to 240.
Oh, 240. I'm sorry if I said 420. Logitech C920 Pro webcam, $61.99 at Best Buy. That's a regular price. Logitech MK270 wireless keyboard and mouse at Office Depot for $14.99. That's 5 off. And the reason I put this chill mat up there was I've been working on a machine, or I diagnosed a machine that was not booting properly. It turned out it was a temperature issue, and how important it is with some of these high power laptops, i5, i7s, that you maintain good airflow. Don't lay it on tablecloths or pillow when you're watching television or something like that, and you're blocking the airflow. So these chill pads are actually a very good idea. Targus chill pad, $29.99, 10 off. They do make cheaper ones for sure, but worth looking into. Monitors. Best Buy has a Dell 23-inch IPS monitor for $109, which is 70 off. Office Depot has a 27-inch IPS from HP for $199. That's 80 off. And Samsung, this is I guess the deal of the day here. Samsung 22-inch LED monitor, super slim monitor for $99, 30 off. Printers, Canon Pixma MX492, Best Buy for $50, $49.99, say 50, half price. Brother Mono laser printer. This is the one that's got Wi-Fi. The one that's cheaper than this, it is duplex, usually sells on sale for $59 or so. This normally sells on sale for about $100. This is the workhorse, desktop workhorse. Office Depot Office Max, Samsung Express laser printer, mono laser printer, duplex wireless for $79. So if you want to go with a different brand at Staples, you can save $20. Home automation and security. This is a product I've never heard of before, and I don't know how the ratings are okay, but I like the design of it. Some of the this can actually be manually turned. It's a deadbolt, a Wi-Fi deadbolt. It is also compatible with some home automation systems. But $299.99, 20 off. They tend to be expensive. The cheapest ones you find out there, $180 or so, depending on the functionality. Sometimes it's just a replacement that works with your existing lock that will turn the lock. This has a rechargeable battery, so you can have one battery charging while the other one is in the unit itself. At Best Buy. TP-Link smart Wi-Fi bulbs, dimmable bulbs. These are not color-changing bulbs, but it was interesting because it's a 3-pack for $74.99. That saves you a little bit because they normally sell for $26 or $27 a piece. And that's Office Depot. And finally, at Staples, eViz 1080p Wi-Fi PoE outdoor camera with 16 gig micro SD card. It will take up to 128 gig on the SD card. It does, this company, eViz, does
EasyViz.
EasyViz, I'm sorry. IsViz. They do offer cloud viewing of stored images, but if you set it up for motion capture and you don't need to see it right away, you can go back and look at the SD card. You can look at the camera live over Wi-Fi. You can monitor what's happening, and it can send alerts to you, motion capture alerts. So useful if you want to spend the money on clouds, up to you. Still useful even if you don't. $99, which is $30 off the regular price, Staples. And finally, just find some interesting gadgets out there. I went looking at specifically at Bluetooth things, and I just ran across some very interesting things. The Blue Smart One suitcase. It's expensive, $358. But it's got a built-in 10,000 milliampere battery for recharging, a built-in scale, dedicated department for your favorite tech stuff, location tracker, uses both GPS and 3G network, and TSA-approved digital lock, so it can be opened by TSA. And I went to this page because it was Bluetooth compatible, and I can't really figure out from the small ad that I read what it does with Bluetooth. I think it's probably the location tracker software or something like that, but it uses GPS and a 3G network for location, which is interesting. 3G would be very helpful. Amazon Basic shockproof, waterproof Bluetooth wireless mini speaker. There's a lot of expensive stuff out there, and for it to get a good rating at $19, he said it is waterproof enough that you can use it in the shower. What the sound comes out like, it all depends. It's a wide open space for performance with these Bluetooth speakers. But this was actually rated pretty well at Amazon, $19. This is for you, Amnon.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you can do karaoke.
Absolutely.
So this is a Bluetooth device. It will work other ways. It'll work with USB. It'll work with an aux slot, but you can go ahead and play a song from your phone, and then the microphone built into this will let you sing over the lyrics. Do karaoke anywhere. It's only $27.99.
I must have one.
You must have one. And then the Pebble e-paper smartwatch is actually getting good reviews. It was a Kickstarter, or no, what was it? I'm not sure it was Kickstarter. It was a crowdfunding startup that came up with this. I think that somebody's actually buying them. I saw this week. Not sure who's buying it, but the company's being purchased. But the idea is it's an e-paper screen. It's not a color screen, so it keeps the price down. But it does all the functions, notifies you of a text, of a chat. It vibrates. It does all kinds of things. Fitness. You just don't pay. You're not paying the money for the fancy screen. So $50. Not bad. And finally, this is another thing. For those of you who travel a lot, you can use Bluetooth to control this little LED display on your hat. So you can let people know how you feel. I could give a message like, go away, no
Leave me
soliciting.
alone.
Hello, I'm a jerk. I'm a moron. You know,
Yeah,
It's pretty funny.
until somebody comes up and breaks into it and say, "Kick me."
Yes, hacks your smart badge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. It was available on ThinkGeek, but they no longer offer it. I don't know why, but it's probably out there somewhere. But think of what you could do with this if you hack into it and the person doesn't know what it's saying. That could really be fun.
Yeah.
That's it for today.
All right, Spence.
Awesome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh boy. Oh.
All right. So, what does anyone think about induction cooktops?
I don't like it.
I've got a friend.
My son has one, and it does not get as hot as fast as even an electric cooktop would do. The cooking implements are very important. Have to be induction based, and there are all kinds of quality out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenient, certainly.
I've got a friend who's got induction hob, you know, a full hob on her sort of in her worktop. And then she had to go out and buy all new pots and pans and everything else in order for it to work. So it's inexpensive hobby.
Well, besides that, though, it's interesting you don't like it because we've talked to several people who have them and they love them.
It depends on the quality. If you want to spend big money, it's probably work okay, like restaurant quality stuff.
Right. Have you ever heard of the Wolf brand?
No.
It's top of the line.
Well, the one that they sell on, infomercials, which is a plug-in desktop one, comes with a free pan. No. That's junk. I mean, it's just.
I remember seeing the one that is built into your counter, and you take your mixer and you just move it to that square, and the mixer now can work, and then you move it away and it stops. Blender that does the same thing. So not just heating up, but actually providing power to operate a gadget, a device. That's interesting.
We just bought one. I guess we'll find out if they're any good.
And you bought what?
An induction cooktop.
So and what did you replace?
We haven't replaced anything yet. We're replacing.
Oh, it's a standalone?
No, we're taking out the electric one and putting in the induction, the resistance heat, and putting in induction.
Okay. They were heralded as being the wave of the future at one point.
Well, this one
hadn't caught up yet.
Yeah, this one is expensive, and it's like you're saying. I'm confident. Well, for example, they've got them that are rated at 15 amps, 20 amps, 30 amps, 40 amps, and 50 amps.
Right. Wow, 50 amps for a cooktop.
Yeah. Well, that's the rating. I mean, typically they're only going to draw half of that.
But still, that's inrush current. So
that's a lot.
Gotta be able to have it.
So having said that, the one we got is 40. And I can imagine that if you got one that's 20, it's not going to work as well, because one of the features on this, and they give it all these consumer names and all that, but you have to understand what's going on inside. They have this function called boost, and the boost is where these things really shine. That's when it goes into high gear and really heats things quickly. And you don't have to use, if you're not in a hurry, if you've got a long time to cook something, you don't even bother to use boost. You turn it on, you let it heat normally. But if you're heating water and you got to get the rice done in time because the rest of the food's ready, that boost will get it done in a hurry.
That was the main complaint my son had, was time to cook. Just there was no feature like that, and just if you're boiling a big pot of water, it took a long time.
Well, he did a demo in the store with this one, and even though he demoed it wrong, it was impressive how quickly that would boil water. I mean, it'd boil a pot of water in 1 minute.
But
you have to wear? Do you have to wear a radiation shield?
Yeah,
when you work on-
lead vest.
lead vests.
You got a lead suit to wear.
Channeling the power of the sun.
We'll see. I mean, it's just money. I mean,
You've got to walk into the living room. You can't be in the kitchen when it's working.
we wanted to put in gas. We've never had gas, but the way our kitchen is laid out, there's not enough clearance above or on either side of the cooktop to add gas. And the thing is, she absolutely hates the resistance cooktop that she has. It's one of these where the resistance element is below the glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's not a good idea.
We have that. Kathy loves it.
I hate it. It's hard to clean. It's the contact of the resistive element to the pan is separated by glass. That puts a level of we'll see. I mean,
I tell you what I would love to see, a hybrid. So you have maybe 2 gas and 2 induction, or
well, we would have probably been satisfied with gas. Anything better than what's there now. She probably would have been satisfied with a resistance with the exposed elements as opposed to this glass top. I think the real issue is the glass top, but that's all you can get anymore. You can't even find these darn things with mechanical knobs on them anymore.
Yep.
So, and we bought a new refrigerator. We hate these side-by-side refrigerators with the freezer in the bottom, which is all the thing now.
Oh, up, down. Yeah.
Hate them. Absolutely hate them. The top is a split like normal, but the bottom is the freezer, and it's a pull-out drawer freezer in the bottom.
I've seen them where you pull it out and there's no tray. It's just opened, exposed wire grid. So as soon as you pull that out, you're dumping all the cold onto the floor. There's no tray to hold the cold in. Cold air falls to the bottom, and it's like you just literally dumped all of the cold out of your freezer when you open the door.
No, I'd rather do that than the older we get, the harder it is to bend over and find crap. We just don't like it. We hate it. Absolutely hate it. So anyway, this refrigerator is apparently only about a year or 2 old. So hopefully we can get something out of it.
What was the resolution of the height?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask. What he's asking about is this new refrigerator requires 71 inches clearance, and we have 71 inches clearance. 71 and 1/8 on one side. That does not totally resolve the issue because some people would argue that you have to have additional clearance on the top for ventilation. And the guy told us yesterday, he said that's not true with this unit. The ventilation is through the bottom, through forced ventilation.
Mm-hmm.
And when salespeople tell me this stuff, I always listen carefully to hear what they're saying. And then I looked around and I did see, for example, that throughout the store, he has tons of refrigerators that are 100% built into the cabinet. That means they have to have the clearance on it. And so anyway, he said, no, they don't need it. And then I looked on the sheet and it said it'd like to have bottom line is, Spence, I think I'm still going to cut this little trim piece. I can get 1/4 of an inch out of it, I think, fairly easily. I think I figured out a good way to do it, and I might want you to help me do it.
It doesn't have any space on the sides? Does it fit perfectly?
Doesn't need it. It needs a 1/2 an inch total on both sides, and I've got about 36 and a half, and it needs about 36.
Well, that's where the way it can ventilate. You don't need to worry. It goes all the way to the top.
No, the ventilation's through the bottom.
I understand, but if you're talking about having, why would you take the trim out?
Because it's the unsolved question at this point is when you put the refrigerator in, you have to tilt it to get the door to close properly.
Right.
And if it's exactly the right height,
okay.
you might not be able to tilt it properly.
Yeah, you have to adjust and lower the front legs to get the door to swing.
Yeah.
Right.
Having a little bit of clearance at the top won't hurt ventilation, and it won't hurt anything else. So there's no reason not to do it. And I think I found a way to do it pretty well, and that's using a router and a pattern bit. And no, Gary, we did not go to Garner Appliance. And it does not have a second ice maker in the bottom freezer. And one of the main reasons, talk about first world problems, one of the main reasons we hate the refrigerator, besides the bottom freezer, is it does not have front ice and water dispenser, front door.
Yeah, I've seen some that did have it, like you just said. The ice maker is all the way like about a foot from the floor.
Yeah, seems like it. We hate it. I mean, it's a great refrigerator in terms of maintaining the freezer temperature and the refrigerator temperature. It's got the digital controls on it. It maintains it exactly right. It's a great refrigerator, and people obviously like them because they're buying them. But the ice maker is in the bottom, the crescent ice cubes down at the bottom. There is no dispenser in the door. I think this refrigerator was either $1,600 or $1,800 new. So it's a good one, but we hate it.
No. Yeah, I mean, you know, some people like it. It's not practical.
So, and my wife gave me an ice maker for Father's Day. You don't want to hear about that.
An ice maker.
Yes.
You mean a standalone ice maker?
Correct.
I've seen those.
Tell us, Mike. Come on, tell us.
I saw that at BJ's. They had that.
Well,
come on, Mike.
No, that we'll see when we get it installed. We're going to probably have to be selling bags of ice out the side door to be able to pay for the darn thing.
I think what it does is, Amnon, it makes one ice cube every hour, and it tosses it in the air. The bell rings, and
hey, it does 10 pounds a day.
Jeez.
A little 1 inch, 7/8 inch ice cubes, clear.
Yeah, I saw that in the store recently, and I thought, interesting. I guess it would be good for if you had a bar or something like that where you didn't want to have a refrigerator. But as long as it supplies what you need.
Yeah.
All right.
What? Hopefully it's a once in a lifetime purchase, and you know what? We're not getting any younger.
Now, here's something that I don't know what's the thing behind it. Fines for texting and driving in Colorado have jumped to $300. But according to the fine print, the increased fine only applies to drivers who are texting in a careless or imprudent manner.
Not ambiguous at all, then.
Therefore, drivers who are texting in any other manners are still within the law. Fox 31 Denver reports that before the new legislation, any texting while driving was illegal. Tim Lane of the Colorado District Attorney Office confirmed the softening crackdown on all texting and driving. The simple fact is that if you are texting while driving but not being careless, it's no longer illegal. I thought the mere fact of doing it is carelessness.
Well, as far as the law is concerned, texting while driving is if you're texting whilst you're in the car behind the wheel. But if you're in the car behind the wheel in a traffic jam or stopped at a red light, they can't do you for it now because that's, you're being cautious. So you're stopped. You're not actually driving the vehicle at 60 mile an hour down the freeway. That's what they're trying to get at, is that, there are circumstances where you can text whilst you're behind the wheel, and they can't just, willy-nilly give you a fine for doing something that is, to all intents and purposes, sensible.
So the article, what constitutes careless? Driving is up to the discretion of each individual law enforcement officer.
Oh, not going to be abused at all then.
Cell phone use of any kind is still banned for drivers younger than 18. Teens caught with a phone in hand while driving will be slapped with a $50 fine. So don't hold the phone in your hand.
That's what it is over here. You can't have the phone in your hand at all, otherwise you get fined.
Now, that just shows how stupid government is. There is no research, legitimate research, suggesting that holding the phone is the cause of the problem. It's the mental distraction that's the problem.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
mental distraction is the same whether you're holding it or doing it hands-free.
Which, I mean, it's no different to reaching out and pressing next on the in-car entertainment system screen.
Well,
You still take your eyes off the road and you say, where's the next button? Next. And you're not paying attention.
here's the strange thing about it. And by the way, I'm totally against texting and driving. I am not in favor of law enforcement having that much discretion. But having said that, it is illegal for you to text on your phone. It is not illegal for you to use your phone for navigation.
Yes, that's weird.
How do you tell the difference? How does this
Yeah.
cop have discretion? I mean, if he hits on this lady and she doesn't capitulate, then all of a sudden his discretion is she needs to go to jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It's very ambiguous, as I say. It's they haven't narrowed it down. They've just widened it way open to incorporate anything that the policeman decides.
Right. And if the policeman had a bad day, then
Yep.
too bad. Now you're going to get it.
I said policeman. I meant law enforcement officer. Sorry.
Well, unlawful enforcement officer.
And,
Yeah.
And as far as ransomware, this is an interesting stat. Despite being an expanding threat, all right, let's see who's calling. Good morning.
Hey, Amnon. It's Mike in Fuquay.
Hey, Mike in Fuquay.
Just thought I'd pass on a little tidbit to you. This past week, I upgraded Windows to the Creator Edition and came up with a problem. Apparently, Malwarebytes, the paid version, does not play well with Windows Defender now.
Oh, jeez. Well,
There's a brand new Windows Defender Security Center built in. It's not the old Defender screen you see. And apparently, Windows now thinks Malwarebytes, the paid version, is a virus program, virus preventer, so it turns off Defender.
Wonderful.
And it really doesn't make it clear. The only way I found out is I went into Defender to do a manual scan, and it didn't do anything.
do you run Malwarebytes in the background all the time?
Yes. Yeah, I've been doing that for quite a while. Never had a problem until I upgraded to the Creator.
So what happens if you change the behavior to just on demand?
Well, there's a solution somebody came up with in one of the forums I read. Apparently, Malwarebytes is aware of it and they're trying to fix it. But what they tell you to do is to go into Malwarebytes settings and turn off registration with Windows Action Center. It's under settings and applications all the way down the bottom. I think it was default set to
Register
let
with
Malwarebytes decide. But if you turn it off, both programs will still function properly.
Interesting.
Defender works fine, and Malwarebytes apparently still works because I keep getting notices every so often on a website.
What's
But like I
your
said,
reaction
it's not
to
very obvious because Windows Defender, if you look at the icon, is green. But
what's
it's
your
just
reaction
not
to
working
creators?
because it insists that Malwarebytes is your primary virus protection now.
Spence is trying to ask you a question.
Yeah. What's your reaction to the Creators Edition?
I had a couple of problems. First of all, the update worked fine. I didn't have any problems with the actual update. It killed my printers. I had to reinstall my printers, but that actually happened when I updated to the Anniversary Edition. I have another program I run called ClickBook. It's a booklet printer. I had to reinstall that because that didn't work. And again, that also happened with the anniversary edition. It added a couple of Windows apps that I had deleted. It reinstalled them, so I had to go back and delete them again. And it added a couple of apps that are totally stupid, to use the best word. One of which I understand Microsoft says was a mistake and they're going to remove it in some future update. But other than the problems I had, I really don't see much of a difference.
Yeah, that's kind of what the people that got a look at the leaks of Windows.
And they added a couple of nice things that they redid this Defender completely. Apparently, they've a major upgrade.
Yeah,
to
it's about time, isn't it?
Yeah, and they put the Windows firewall in this security center. I don't know how that works because I couldn't make any adjustments. But other than this Defender problem, that was the major headache I came up with. But what you do, like I said, is go into malware application settings, and all the way down the bottom, you turn off registration with the Windows Action Center. And that fixes
Mike,
it.
Gene in the chat is saying, mine didn't turn Defender off. Make sure Malwarebytes is up to date.
I have the latest. I checked Malwarebytes' website. It's the live version, the one that's running constantly, not the free version.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. I don't like running it in the background. It's too much. It's taxing the processor too much.
Yeah, I just like the security. But like I said, what you got to do is turn off that notification, and it works. I thought I'd pass that on to you.
No, that's good information. I appreciate
that.
Know.
We'll talk to you later then.
Wait a second, Steve.
I say useful to know. So there's bound to be some other people out there with the same experience.
Yep.
Well, like I said, if I only found out by trying to run a Defender manual scan. Other than that, it doesn't tell you that it's not running. It's basically shut off. I don't even think it does updates. Defender, that is. So if you use Defender with the paid Malwarebytes, you got to make sure that their Defender's running.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Take care.
You too, Mike. Thanks for calling me. 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype.
Had an interesting discussion yesterday with some people over at Home Depot about LED bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been fiascos for the sellers because the first Cree bulbs that came out were not good. They looked well, but they were not good. Many of them failed. They're having high failure rates on other brands, various levels of performance issues. Pricing is all over the board. Saw some yesterday for the 5000K. They have some over at Home Depot in a cutout bin, I guess, and they were, I believe, 77 cents a piece for a 60 watt equivalent, 5000K, which is good for video if you need something like that.
But what are the hours on the bulbs? Your 2,000 hour bulbs? Because
No,
that's
these
what
really
I found. The cheap ones were like the same life as a incandescent long life bulb.
These look like 13 years. If you don't turn them on, I guess. But
yeah,
Leave them in their packaging, then you're fine.
yeah, but no, they're getting rid of these because they're not popular. Nobody, I guess, people just don't like them. I mean, there's a really ugly light. but for video, it's actually 5000K. From what I understand, there
Yeah.
to 6500 is preferable.
Right.
But having said that, if you look around, I did the things I'm getting to is they said that what I did not know, I bought probably 50 or 60 of the Crees when they came out over time. I was talking about it here. And out of those, I bet at least 10 of them went bad. And that doesn't give me a lot of reassurance on the others. Now, Cree did replace some to me. They didn't even ask me to return the old ones because I got a little tired of it. These things, I was paying $5 a piece for them. And you have 6, 8, 9 of them go out, and that hurts your feelings after a while. And they did make good on those. Maybe it was 4 of them they replaced. It wasn't a lot. But so the others I just threw in the trash can. Well, what I found out is that even though they don't tell you this, that if you buy the Cree bulb at Home Depot, if it goes bad, you bring it back. They give you a new one, no questions asked. That's the only brand where they will give you a replacement without a receipt or warranty or anything. Now, Cree, from what I hear, I don't know that it's true, but I hear that they're losing their butt on the lighting business, and there could be some changes there. They cannot compete price-wise with China, which is understandable, but so the time will tell how that's going to work out. But I did observe some differences in bulbs, and maybe Brent can help us understand it. We've sort of talked about this before, but some of the bulbs, when you turn them on, they turn on instantly. Others have a delay on them. And normally that's not a problem until you start mixing bulbs, and then you turn it on and you get this funky little wave of light in the room where some turn on sooner than others and all that. I mean, I prefer the instant on. The original ones were instant on. I was bragging about those, but a lot of those went bad. I would be interested in knowing. I did buy this brand that's off-brand or house brand. I forget what it is at Home Depot. EcoSmart. That's what it is, EcoSmart. And supposedly the original EcoSmart bulbs were made by Cree, but now apparently they're over in China, and whether it's Cree's design or licensed, whatever, I don't know. But having said all that, I did buy, I believe it was a 6 or 8 pack of them. I put them in my lamps that I wanted consistent light, the same light. And so far they look good. The lighting looks good. They turn on quickly. So it may be a good bulb. The bulbs were net about $250 each, I think, which that's fair price for a bulb that'll last forever. If it lasts forever, if it's only going to last a year, then that's not a good deal. And
I have a customer who would put in all new home automation smart switches and replaced all of his bulbs with LEDs. And his main complaint was the sound that the bulbs would make, especially when they were dimmed.
Well, at my age,
some of them were. Here's the interesting thing: is he's blind. His girlfriend is not, but he's blind. But he wanted to be able to control the lighting for other people in his house from his phone and know what was happening. So he did the Alexa thing and all that. So he had no way of knowing, well, did the light I turn on go on? And so he went through. Cree didn't work right. Let's see, there were 3 or 4 other brands he tried. The ones that worked the best and had the lowest or no sound at all were Philips bulbs. So for whatever reason, he wound up using Philips, and it wasn't the cheapest, but it gave him and I have hearing issues, and I could hear some of the bulbs was so loud.
Well, these 77-cent bulbs I was just talking about at Home Depot, they're on the back wall. If you go in, they were Philips.
Yeah. Were they dimmable?
I looked for that and I didn't see that. And
these are the ones that look like a puck.
No, they look like an 819 bulb, or 815, 819, whatever it is.
I have a couple of the original Philips puck bulbs. You remember those? The flat ones?
No.
They're kind of a weird shape. They look like a hockey puck. And they actually work very well, held up well. I still have a couple of them. They were odd.
I've bought many different makes.
All right, so these are the ones that were 77 cents a bulb. This pack was like $279 or $259 or something like that. And these are the Philips, but they're 5000K, which means that I'm not going to use them as a reading lamp or as a room light.
Right.
But there are other places like a utility room or something like that where they're perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was saying I bought many LEDs, the different makes, because it's still in its infancy, sort of. So you try. I never had an LED to go bad.
Well, I
mean,
have.
in the last, say, 3 years.
But I mean, Charles makes a great point here, and I have the same question, Brent. It says that I have LEDs that the base gets very hot. It makes me wonder how efficient they can be if they're generating that kind of heat. And I noticed the same thing, and these are the Crees and others. Joey says the Cree bulbs that have the vents run very cool, and he's pleased with those. And I've noticed the same thing. I mean, it's that Cree bulb that has little vents down at the bottom of it. That's a funky design. But based on what I was observing yesterday, I didn't buy any more Cree bulbs, but what I was based on yesterday, they didn't have those vents down at the bottom anymore. I believe they've changed away from that design, and I wonder why.
Originally, the vented ones were a plastic shell.
Yes.
And the new ones are glass, or Malware, or some type of a coating over glass. But yeah, I like the original ones with the vents on them.
Now those weren't the original bulbs. That was the second generation or later. The first generation didn't have it, and the reason I know that is because whenever they sent me new bulbs, they were the ones with the vents in them to replace the earlier ones that did not have the vents in them.
Are those the early ones, the ones that had the heat sink base?
No, they looked exactly like a bulb. It was from what I think they were probably the first major generation they had, because they sold boatloads of them at Home Depot, because they were $7.97 a bulb, and they had them on sale for like $4.95 when only at the one over at Crossroads. If you went to the one in Apex, they weren't on sale.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, that was weird. Well, I've got Philips, Cree, Fight Electric, FEIT, which you can get at Costco.
Junk.
I'm working fine in my bathroom. I've had them in there a year. And what's the other brand?
Commercial Electric.
Nope. GE.
GE. I've got some GE, and also this EcoSmart. I'm just the EcoSmarts I bought yesterday and tested. So far, so good.
Yeah, and some of these don't do well when they burn base up, because the glues that they use to hold the case together and the temperature that accumulates at the base in a base up environment. I know that used to be compact fluorescent bulbs. Some of them were rated. They said do not burn base up because of the heat. Yeah, I'm surprised at the amount of heat you can get out of a 9-watt bulb. But
so
this led to a discussion with, I can't remember how it got started, about just the whole idea of lighting and why not go with low voltage in a house? Why do we have to go through conversions from
back and forth? Yeah.
Back and forth. So I hope there's some work being done on.
You got to rewire. You got to start a whole new ecosystem when you do that.
Well, that's okay as long as it's planned.
Well, it is. But then, I mean, I understand the argument, and the original proposal for distribution of power was DC. But one of the things that, and I'm not a power guy. I've got a degree in electrical engineering, but I haven't thought about power at that level in many years. But the original problem for technical guys in the room, maybe Gary can comment on it, Brent would know, but one of the biggest problems with using DC to distribute power in the early days, whenever they're designing the original power grids, is that the lines with DC, because of inherent capacitance, the lines would act like this big capacitor and create a number of issues that don't happen with AC. Now, I don't know about that.
Transmission distance with DC was the big problem. It didn't go very far.
The IR loss was certainly a big problem, because with AC you can use transformers, and with DC you can't. So I mean, there are any number of reasons not to do that. So let's take the question you're talking about, Spence, and we decided
low voltage DC.
But let's talk about low voltage DC. You still have to convert it coming into the house.
No, I'm talking about people who want to build these so-called sustainable plants.
Oh, you can
And
do
they're
that. You
storing,
can
but
do
they're
DC with
storing
solar.
power at 24 volts DC.
Well, you can do that with solar. You can generate DC with
No,
solar.
the problem is having the house wired for that voltage. It's sort of like a travel trailer.
Yeah, you've got a DC and an AC
Yeah,
system.
you have both on the same, not on the same wires, but both running parallel. So if you could run a wire for DC 12 or 24 volt along with where every light is, and you can change it. So you said, okay, now on this one, even today, Mike, yeah, convert it to DC when it comes in. But then all your light bulbs just need to be LEDs. They don't need all that mechanism to take the 110 and drop it down.
Yeah, no transformers.
Yeah, no transformers, no nothing. So if you, but I mean, to go and rewire a house now is
No,
ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. I know people that they're talking about these battery. What is it? Musk has his battery backup system for the home and all that, and it's local storage, and it's all DC.
Yeah.
So just to prevent having to go through multiple changeovers, why not have a parallel DC infrastructure in the house, low voltage? Maybe it's 24 volts, maybe it's 12, but it'd be a heck of a lot easier to reduce 24 down to 12 than it is to go from 120 to 12.
Right. Brent's giving some good technical explanations in chat, and he's absolutely correct, of course. And what he's saying is the previous topic is the reason that the current LED bulbs are not as hot is because the actual LED semiconductors are getting more and more efficient, and that is the more light, the less heat. That it has to go towards their efficiency. And 10 years from now, they'll probably be dramatically better. But the issue that is relevant with regard to these bulbs getting hot and their reliability, it also has to go, it goes towards the quality or the design per se of the inverter built into that bulb. And that is what we're saying here is that there's an inverter built into the base of the bulb that is an electronic circuit that takes, and I'm not positive what the current design is on an LED bulb, but I think it's probably converting it from 110 AC to some sort of very high frequency AC that's rectifying, filtering it, converting it to DC, and then creating a current limited, current controlled, current regulated source for the LED. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but that converter / inverter circuit built into the base, that's really no more sophisticated than circuits were 5 years ago in many ways, which is why these bulbs are failing. It's not the LED element that's failing, as far as I know. It is this age-old industry standard, improved somewhat with time, probably inverter built into the base, which is probably not much different to the inverter built into the base of CFLs, which were horrible. I mean, these things, what they do when you're designing an electronic circuit, whenever you're the military, you design it for maximum performance, maximum reliability. That's expensive. When you're designing for the consumer market, you want to make it, most of them work at the lowest possible price, which means you have to design to a margin. You have to figure out how close you want to get to that line, whatever that line is. These inverters, to make these bulbs cheaper and cheaper, they're designing these things with capacitors that are smaller, that have probably higher ESR. I mean, all sorts of design specs that go into it, that they push the envelope to keep the price down. And that is a trade-off on reliability. But now getting back to the current topic that you guys are talking about using DC, and that is that even with low voltage DC, you have to regulate the voltage and or the current. LEDs do not operate on voltage, they operate on current. And once you get into having to, and I'm throwing this at what he said, this is what I'm throwing out there, is that even if you take an all DC house, you absolutely have to regulate the 12 or 24 volts being distributed through the house. You absolutely have to do that. Or if you don't regulate it, then it will droop with load, meaning you turn on one bulb and the other one starts getting dimmer. But even having said that, they probably, need to be current regulated, which now you're back to electronic circuitry, which now minimizes the reliability of the circuitry. So it's not quite as simple as it would seem as just let's use DC.
Well, I mean, I for the last 20, I mean, not the last 20 years ago, starting to work with bulletin boards and computers, maybe longer than that, I wanted somebody to build a board that I could plug the two connectors that came off of the power supply into the computer motherboard and the rest, 12-volt battery. Just build a board that will be able to, that will take and make also 5 plus and 5 minus or whatever you need. And why do we need to have that power supply there with a UPS? Take it directly from the battery, put a battery charger on that battery, and work off of the battery the whole time.
In the carrier environment, there were devices that were DC power supplies for computers and all kinds of other equipment, but that operated at 48 volts DC.
That's right.
Central office power. So you had power supplies that were, essentially you were taking your power off a giant battery bank that provided continuous power that was backed up by AC conversion.
Yeah, but here, I mean, it's something really simple. And why do you have to take 110? I mean, just think about it. Here's a UPS. So you take 110, you put it into a UPS, the power goes out. That UPS changes that 12 volt that it has internally to 120, connects to the computer power supply takes that 120, brings it back down to 12, right?
Yeah,
why bypass it?
There are advantages to that, though.
What?
Having a regulated power supply. The reason this stuff is low voltage is because of the components. If you built a 110 volt system board, the components would be fantastically expensive.
No, I'm talking about why can't we work off of 12 volts to begin with for the computer? Because that's
okay. So let's say you need 18 volts. Where do you get that?
No, then you have to have a different power supply. But computers run on 12.
No, they run on 5 or 3.3.
5, yeah, 5, and I mean at the most 12. So you can take the 12 and reduce it.
Amnon, do you remember what a potentiometer is?
Yeah.
You put every room in your house, you have a potentiometer on the wall with DC plugs on the wall, and you just turn the power, whatever you need.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean,
no, look, it is seriously. Amnon.
Look, the power supply for a computer has a big plug these days. It used to be 2 little ones, right? That plug from the power supply to the motherboard.
No, I think they have one big one and one little one.
No, in the early days, there were 2 that were identical. You always had to figure out which one goes where. Remember the early days?
Well, I don't know about that, but now there's a 20/24 pin and a 4 pin.
But what's the highest voltage on that plug, on that block, is 12 volts.
Correct.
The power supply reduces it to 12 and reduces it to 3 and reduces it to 5 and 5 plus and 5
and
minus.
3.3.
Yeah. So
now let me ask you.
Yeah.
You can take a car battery
Yeah.
and hook it up to your computer and it will work.
No, it won't.
Yeah, it will.
Because there's no 5 volts.
It will. You have to put a 5-volt regulator in there.
Okay. You see, that's my point. That's what I wanted somebody to develop. A little board that you
When
plug.
do you want it?
Anytime.
When do you want it?
Today. Now, come on, Mike. Yeah. I mean, it'll be nice to have something like this. And if you have a battery sitting somewhere, you can actually feed multiple computers with this. You don't have to worry about getting hit by a surge because there is no surge anymore. And you can take a car battery or a boat battery and just run wires to each computer and have that board that will support the hard drives and support the motherboard, and you're done.
Right. Except you're overlooking some very serious considerations.
Okay.
I absolutely can build what you want. If you want it, you're willing to pay for it.
But
one of the biggest issues that you deal with in computer power supplies is efficiency. And that's why they use switching power supplies. And that is that they produce only the amount of power they need plus whatever it takes to operate the circuitry. What you're talking about is a what we call a linear regulator, which has to have a lot more mass, a lot more heat sinking, a lot more capacity. It's going to be larger. It's going to be expensive. And because they're not being mass produced, it's prohibitively expensive.
Okay. I mean,
that's part of the problem. But can it be done? Sure, it can be done. It's not, it's just, so what you do is, I mean, it starts with the first problem. What's the voltage on a car battery?
12. Well, 12 by itself.
13.8.
13, 14,
13.6.
Yeah.
All right. There's problem number one. Now you got to knock it down to 12.
Yeah.
All right. So your theory is flawed right there. It's not just hook up a car battery. Now, if it's hook up a car battery to a computer board that's got to generate 12 volts, now you have 13.6 to 12. That requires a very low dropout regulator, which is hard to do at 1.6 volts. Now you're starting a plethora of problems. What if that battery droops a little bit? Now your power supply falls out of regulation. So the way you would have to do that reliably, let's say you're designing for military purposes, which is the highest standard for the most part. You then would have to take that 13.6 volt battery, create a DC to DC converter that steps the voltage up to something like 24 volts. And then you would start going into your computer with a DC to DC converter that would convert 24 volts to 12, 5, and 3.3.
All right, that's going right over.
Yeah. Now you just shot yourself in the foot. You might as well plug it into AC and get an inverter, because those are all mass produced and they're cheap and they work.
Yeah, true. My point was hits on the line when there's a storm or whatever.
No, I get it.
That's why I was thinking about it.
Here's where your idea could actually be made to make sense. And that is that if computer manufacturers, we're talking desktop computers now.
Yeah.
If computer desktop manufacturers were to eliminate the 12 volt rail so that even the hard drives and things ran on 5 and did not need 12, now you're talking about regulating 13.6 down to 5 and 3.3. Now you're starting to talk some sense. And there's actually a chip that I found out about. I wasn't familiar with it, and we're running over here, but the chip that I'm familiar with was not familiar with, and I don't know what I did with it. It's sitting here somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. But it's actually a DC, what's called a DC to DC switching converter. And it's on this board that I bought, this relay board that's designed to work with Raspberry Pi or Arduino or GPIO logic with a computer board. 16 relays. Look at this board. See this board? 16 relays, 16 opto isolators. And it also has on here this little surface mount TO220 type package. In the if anybody who's interested, which I don't know if anybody is, but the part number on this thing is an LM2596S, LM2596S DC to DC converter. What this thing does is it takes the incoming voltage that has to be like 7 or 8 volts and converts it to 5 volts. And what's unique about it is you don't see all this great big heat sink. You don't see all these big parts and massive metal and all that. And the reason why is because it's a switching or buck converter. It's a switching converter. So it only develops the power it needs to deliver to the circuit. Made in China. How much do you think I paid for this board if I haven't already done this? Including shipping. How much do you think I paid for this board?
I don't know, $10. 16
relays, 16 opto isolators. The regulator, when I looked it up on DigiKey, was like $7.
Okay, so how much?
$12.
Jeez.
$12. If I use these relays separately, I could buy this board, take the relays off of it. Cheaper than I could buy the relays. That doesn't even include all the terminal strips, the 2803 drivers. I mean, it's just insane. It's got to be hot. But it's also interesting to note that I bought this on eBay, and one of the LEDs on the relays is missing. They didn't populate it. I ordered a 5-volt unit, and this one has 24-volt relays. And I contacted the guy and told him I wasn't happy, and he said, okay. And he gave me my $12 back, so I got it for free.
And there's nothing wrong with it other than the missing LED.
That one thing is missing, and there's some sloppy soldering on it. I believe it was a repaired unit, so I don't feel bad about that. It's
interesting.
Right here, it's got some flux around one of these LEDs indicating to me it's been hand soldered, which I don't like that nonsense. And it looks like it might have a couple of cold solder joints on the back too. So if I actually put this into a mission critical board, I'm going to reflow all these solder joints. Like the wave solder machine was not hot enough or something. So,
all right,
$12.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's past our normal time.
Oh no, we'll have to pay the union for overtime.
Yeah,
now.
I know. That's right. Anything else that anybody want to bring up?
No.
I'll let you know how I get on with this WSUS. It's still doing its bit.
Yep, it's just leave it alone.
And you have to run it several times.
I actually run it once, Mike, because you can tell it to do the restarting, and when it's done, if I run it again, nothing.
Right, but you're telling it to restart.
Yeah,
you're
I
telling
tell
it to do automatically what we did manually when it was new.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was correct and you were wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. It'll work, Steve. Are you on the second step of actually installing, or is it still building?
Yes, installing.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll let you know next week.
All right.
Have a good week, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at Computers 2K Now. While you're at it, like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tomorrow evening, a new show, Waking Up with Dr. Tatiana. She calls it Solutionary TV. Should be a very interesting show. See ya.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.